Where would society be without its modern inventions? When you take a look at life as we know it now, there are so many cool things that came about because someone had an idea and they found a way of making it a reality. Chicago has had its fair share of inventive people, so in this video, we're taking a look at 5 inventions from the Windy City that I think are cool. There are actually many things that were invented in the Chicago area, so I will be doing additional videos on this topic in the future. If you'd like to see those, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Number 5. Brownies. In anticipation of the Chicago World's Fair of 1893, Bertha Palmer was given the position of President of the Board of Lady Managers. The positions were largely honorary, but they still came with quite a bit of work to do. Part of the exposition was establishing the Woman's Building. The ladies chose an architect and oversaw interior decorations and many other things. One of Bertha Palmer's tasks for the World Fair was also to put on a luncheon for the ladies. Bertha was the wife of Palmer Hotel owner Potter Palmer, so she called upon the hotel's head chef to create a dessert that could be placed inside a boxed lunch for her fellow socialites who would be in attendance. She asked that it be a cake-like dessert, but it needed to be smaller and more portable than cake. The resulting confection was made with walnuts and covered in an apricot glaze. The Palmer Hotel still serves a brownie made from the original recipe today. Number 4. Steel frame skyscrapers. During the last half of the 19th century, most of the major cities in America were attempting to grow, literally from the ground up. After the wake of the Civil War, they experienced significant economic growth and a population increase, so they began looking for ways to maximize their land. They hit upon the idea of constructing skyscrapers to utilize the vertical space of the cities. At that point in time, the cities were made up mostly of low-rise buildings, so what they considered to be a skyscraper was anything 10 stories or higher. Thanks to the invention of the elevator in 1857, it became more feasible for taller buildings to be put to use. Cities all across America began trying their hand at it. St. Louis, New York City, Philadelphia, and Chicago all put up skyscrapers, and with each new building, the construction techniques became more refined. In 1885, the Home Insurance Building in Chicago became the first skyscraper to be built with structural steel as part of the frame. This new design was created by William LeBaron Jenney, and while not perfect, it was a step in the right direction. Chicago threw itself into putting up skyscrapers like no other city. By 1893, they had 12 skyscrapers in the financial district, ranging from 16 to 20 stories tall. Today, Chicago is home to 53 buildings that stand over 600 feet tall. Number 3. The remote control. When the television was first introduced to the American household, viewers would have to get up and manually turn the knob to change stations if they didn't want to watch what was on. Chicago-based company Zenith, then known as Zenith Radio Corporation, realized that there was potential for a new product that they could sell in tandem with their televisions. They recognized that there would be people who wouldn't want to get up to go to the TV set, so in 1950 they launched the first television remote control. This first foray into remote controls was called the Lazy Bones, and it was connected to the television by a wire, and it cost $30, which at that time was quite an investment. Customers liked the idea of being able to use a remote control, but they didn't like the unsightly wire, and some kept tripping over it, so Zenith went back to the drawing board. Their next attempt was 5 years later in 1955. It was called the Flashmatic, but it didn't work so well. The remote used light beams and had to be pointed precisely at the sensor on the television, and the sensors couldn't differentiate between the Flashmatic's light and other light sources. So, once again, they looked for a way of improving their product. A year later, in 1956, they released the Zenith Space Command, which is probably the coolest name you could give a television remote control. This version is the reason people started calling it a clicker. It used ultrasound to control the volume and channel, and when the user would push a button, they would hear a click. Other companies came along and added their contributions to the remote control, but Chicago's version came first. Number 2. Hospital-based blood banks. Where would modern medicine be without the invention of the blood bank? The need for transfusing blood from donor to recipient was first recognized in the 19th century, but because blood coagulates, it would have to be transfused directly from person to person. Storing blood at that time was impossible. Many doctors throughout the years would attempt ways of getting around the coagulation issues. Some added chemicals, and some just diluted the blood. With the start of World War I, medical professionals realized what a critical need stored blood would be, so they set out to find a way to make that a reality. In the Soviet Union, they tried transfusing blood from cadavers, and in England, they were developing blood group typing tests. But it wasn't until 1937 when Chicago physician Bernard Fantis struck upon how to properly store and refrigerate blood that hospital-based blood banks became a thing. He was the director of pharmacology and therapeutics at Cook County Hospital. Dr. Fantis recognized the need for blood transfusions in a trauma situation, so he began studying the literature from other countries, and he found that testing and storing the blood wasn't that complicated. He gathered support for his operation, and on March 15, 1937, the first hospital-based blood bank opened. Dr. Fantis' daughter Ruth is credited for coining the phrase blood bank. Number 1. Softball. Many people think of softball as being a version of baseball, but with a bigger ball. However, softball was invented as its own thing, and there are more differences between it and baseball than the casual observer notices. A softball field is smaller than that of a baseball field, and this is due to the fact that softball began as an indoor sport. Having a smaller field means that it also has a faster pace than baseball. For those who don't like sitting for hours on end watching men spit and scratch at themselves, softball might be the better option for a spectator sport. The first known softball game took place on Thanksgiving Day, 1887 in Chicago. A group of people had gathered at a boat club to hear the final score in a Harvard-Yale football game. After everyone had settled their bets, a Yale supporter took a rolled-up glove and threw it at a Harvard supporter. That person picked up a stick and swung at the glove. George Hancock, a reporter who was present, thought he was being funny and yelled, "Play ball!" The next week, Hancock, who must have still been mulling over those events, came up with an oversized ball and an undersized bat to be used in the game. The Farragut Club came up with the rules, and it was billed to people as being a way for baseball players to continue playing in the winter months. They eventually moved the game outdoors, and in 1889, the rules for it were officially published. The game has since evolved and has now been added as an Olympic sport. I hope you liked this video. If so, give it a thumbs up or share it with your friends to support the channel. And if you didn't like it, well, maybe just keep that to yourself. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, I remain stuck in the cornfield.